So once you've identified the audience and you have an idea of what your business unit, the process that you're going to tackle, then it comes to creating this common language. Something that we talk about a lot with our clients because, well, I mean, I'll let you guys talk about it because you all are the ones that deal with it on a regular basis. But I think it comes back down to just making sure we're all saying the same things in the same way, because at some point we're going to have to apply math, and math is not as fluid as the English language when it comes to certain things. And so we want to make sure that we're clear, right?
Mm-hmm. So something we see a lot, and it's typically one of the first steps in a formal engagement with some of our clients, is at the same time that we're mapping out the current processes, uncovering some unknown sequences of how data is handled. One thing we'll uncover is that two people that sit right next to each other at work are implementing a formula or a KPI in completely different ways. Maybe they'll, allocate a lot of data in an Excel spreadsheet that typically is regarded as raw data. And then the moment that they summarize it and work with all the data, they've got that summarized version of a KPI. Whereas their colleague who sits right next to them aggregates all of the data first and then starts implementing some of these KPIs. And the next thing, one thing that they don't realize is they're using these insights that they generate for themselves that are completely different. Revenue, in some cases, for some employees over the past 3 months can differ by a large magnitude depending on how they're implementing this data. So something that we find extremely important is to get everyone together who has expertise on the data, subject matter experts, to come together and define a lot of these KPIs and a lot of how this data is named, to make sure everybody's on the same page of what the data means and what to call it. There's been so many cases where a KPI has just spiraled out of control and gained new meaning for smaller subcultures within an organization. And taking a step back and creating a common language will just allow you to, even after you've developed your first or second report, to move that common language through multiple reports in the future. And you've already set yourself up for success because there's not going to be any rewrites on what a definition is.
And Christiaan, I think that in developing this common language, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, or provide some input here. I think that when you do that and you've got that buy-in and everybody agrees on it, the user adoption increases because it reduces your need for people to come back and be like, well, this isn't right. This doesn't match up with what I normally see, right? Because we see that a lot, don't we?
Right, no, exactly. Especially like we see this a lot with the data validation side of things. That's when usually these gremlins start popping up a lot. Because then we would be looking at old reports to validate. We'll look at the database, and then as well as, obviously the stuff that we've developed. And then we come across all of these different issues because of either there was like confusion on what, let's say, for example, they're typing their type of incidents or whatever. There might be a different definition for one department than the other, but at an organizational level, it is one particular defined metric, right? So essentially, we need to roll up to the organizational level. So like to your point, I think that, yeah, it definitely removes a lot of the ambiguity and confusion. It's kind of like the old adage, keep it simple, stupid. So as long as the users and the main stakeholders, as well as the VPs who in some cases might see this and actually use it to make decisions, are all on the same page, that's kind of the key takeaway from the common language. And this comes down to also, like I was saying earlier, about consolidating all your data sources into a single place, because then it makes it easy for other users, and in the spirit of Power BI, to self-service and develop their own reports as well, because then there's no guesswork.
And what we're trying, again, we'll reiterate here, what we're trying to do is to provide everyone an understanding that if you're trying to implement Power BI in your organization or your department, that it should really be looked at as a programmatic approach. It's not a project. It's not like we're going to do a Power BI project and all of a sudden we're going to have some Power BI. Like, it doesn't work like that. Microsoft will obviously allow you to buy their licensing, but you're not going to find as much value in it, and you're not going to get the user adoption without taking some steps up front to understand what people's common languages are, understanding what the business processes are that get the data to and from where it's going to go, how you want those visuals to look. And that all will increase the speed by which people begin to use the product and give you feedback.